Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And hello everybody and welcome to this week's edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen and we have arrived. It is AEW pay-per-view weekend, World's End Saturday in Chicago. One of AEW's favorite places to be. And it's the third annual World's End pay-per-view. Looking forward to this one. I love these late December pay-per-views. It's just, not a lot of stuff happening in the pro wrestling world this time of year. Normally, AEW has carved a nice little niche of a pay-per-view to close out the year. They close out with the finals of the Continental Classic, which is also really cool to have as a little bit of a holiday-based, G1 of sorts, the C2, if you will. So we will be diving into this entire card with a prediction for each match, as we normally do. Hopefully this will be a quick, concise, digestible half hour or so, giving you the ins and outs of World's End. As always, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, on Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. Subscribe to this show on YouTube at JuicySteen. Listen to the show on juicysteen.podbean.com, Spotify, and as I said before, YouTube, Amazon Music as well. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts via iTunes or on Spotify, please give the show a rating and review. It helps the show grow, and it gives me some feedback on how to improve and what have you. Like I said, the third annual World's End pay-per-view. This is always, again, a really cool time of year for pro wrestling, so I'm happy that AEW is continuing the tradition of having this pay-per-view in December in Chicago, one of the pillars, to coin a AEW term, of AEW locations, which I always, I respect. We've had the first All In, you've had Double or Nothings, you've had so many damn shows in Chicago in different venues as well. So to see it again, it's going to be a great crowd. I have zero doubt about that. Hopefully, if you guys enjoyed last week's episode, kind of did a little bit of a 2025 recap. I have been under close consideration to maybe considering doing in 2026 an awards-based show where I just give out my personal favorite match or favorite company or best wrestler. Not too many topics, just the easiest topics to cover and go based off of that for my standards. So no name has been given yet, but we are currently in the process of figuring out and working out anything in that regard. I also might do a little bit of a predictions-based show next week going into the new year, so be on the lookout for that. But let's get into this thing. AEW World's End in Chicago at the Hoffman Estates at the Now Arena. Here we go. I mean, this is standard AEW pay-per-view where they got 10 matches, 9 on the main pay-per-view, and a lot of intrigue, I gotta say. Let's get started. Tag team match to start off on the pre-show. The Sisters of Sin, Julia Hart, Sky Blue taking on Hyan and Maya World. I see no world in which Sisters of Sin lose this match. However, I know AEW likes to build a little bit in their, depth of roster, especially on the women's side, especially on the women's tag team side. So I could see potentially an upset here. However, because it's not on the main card, I would kind of shy away from that personally. This match is only described as Mixed Nuts Mayhem, but it's 4-on-4. It's the conglomeration: Mark Briscoe, Roderick Strong, Timeless Tony Storm, and Orange Cassidy, taking on the Death Riders: Marina Shafir, Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli. This match was announced during the run of very unique and successful tapings of like the holiday versions of Dynamite and Collision this past week. Hammerstein Ballroom. Love those shows. Love the venue. Hammerstein still has a little bit of juice left, even though they painted those guardrails and such, which not a big fan of. I am a fan of just them in general, having these shows around Christmas time and this classic venue, putting on great shows. We've got a 4-on-4. Maybe it's not a street fight. Maybe it's no DQ. Maybe it's all of the above. It's something like Stadium Stampede. I don't know. But Mixed Nuts Mayhem sounds fun, and I'm looking forward to it. I know how they have thumbtacks on the ground. Maybe if you're familiar with the Texas Roadhouse, of yore, with the aesthetic there at those restaurants, you could throw your peanuts on the ground and just have a chaotic scene on the floor for those folks to clean up at the restaurant. Maybe that's what they're going to do. Maybe they're going to have a bunch of cashews on the mat, like thumbtacks, to where you could go and land on them, which I don't think that would feel very pleasant. So I doubt it, but Mixed Nuts Mayhem on the main card. Looking forward to that. All 8 of those competitors are fun and unique and all have a story there. We've got the AEW Women's Tag Title match. Babes of Wrath defend against Mercedes Moné and Athena. I am going to stick with the Babes of Wrath retaining the championships. I think Mercedes Moné will continue to, slowly but surely unravel as she eventually starts losing some of these championships going down the line. I know she just lost one, I believe, to Alex Winza, so that is definitely something to look at. So I'm going to take the Babes of Wrath to retain the championships, and if the Sisters of Sin do get that win on the pre-show, I would suppose they have next in line for a shot at those tag titles. I do want to mention I'm going to select the conglomeration as the winners of the Mixed Nuts Mayhem match. I know I didn't give a prediction. I just kind of gave what the hell is this? So, another match that I'm very intrigued with a stipulation: Chicago Street Fight for the AEW World Tag Titles. FTR defending their tag titles against the Bang Bang Gang, Juice, shout out to Juice Robinson, and Austin Gunn. Chicago Street Fight. There have been plenty of Chicago Street Fights in pro wrestling's past. Off the top of my head, WrestleMania 13 with The Nation and Road Warriors and Ahmed Johnson. I know there was one at Uncensored 96, I believe, with Booker T and Sting versus the Road Warriors, I think. And there's been countless other Chicago Street Fights, but this is going to be a brawl. I think FTR is going to retain. I know that March is a little far out, and I know that Revolution's their next pay-per-view, but I'd like to see Cope and Cage get back into the fray at some point to set up a program with those four. I don't know if that's next, or if it is, they're going to take some time with it. But, this is an opportunity to have some interference, or to have chaos and have something at the end of the show feel like you're leading to something else. So maybe that's what's going to happen here. I've got FTR, Dax, and Cash winning and retaining the World Tag Titles in this Chicago Street Fight. Added late to the show, Darby Allin versus Gabe Kidd. Straight up singles match. I think this is going to be a very underrated match, especially with how great Gabe Kidd is. And you know how I feel about Darby Allin, one of the pillars of AEW. I think Darby Allin's going to win this match. I think Darby Allin should win, gain momentum, look towards the Continental title or the International, or, there's so many, the National title even. There's so many different opportunities and avenues for Darby Allin to progress going forward. Maybe Darby's got a shot at the world title down the line, depending on who retains or regains or comes out of that four-way. As champion, I could conceivably see Darby Allin stepping up and having a shot. I could see Darby and Joe. I could see Darby and MJF. And I wouldn't mind Swerve or Hangman against Darby, but I don't think those two are going to walk out as champion. We'll get to that in a little bit. We will also have Women's World Title on the line. Chris Statlander taking on Jamie Hayter. This is the world title match. This is something that I've liked both AEW and WWE doing very well, which is having such depth on their rosters that they can have women's tag champions that, or at least challenging for those champions that have legendary singles wrestlers in them. Charlotte, Alexa Bliss, Mercedes Moné, Athena. Those wrestlers are actively trying to win tag titles when the world title is still being, vied for somewhere else with other wrestlers. So now you get Chris Statlander, Jamie Hayter, a chance to showcase what they've got. I want Chris Statlander to retain this. I wouldn't be shocked if she lost, but I'm going to stick with Chris Statlander to win this match, retain the AEW Women's World Title, and move forth. I don't know what is necessarily next. Like I said, a lot of these are tough to predict, knowing that the next pay-per-view for AEW is in March, and that is 3 months of TV and booking decisions and a lot of moving parts that could happen from now until then to accurately predict something. So, if anything, it's even more exciting that I can't predict it, and I'm looking forward to, what is to come with what Tony Khan wants to put forth in his booking and his creative. So I'm going to stick with Chris Statlander, and I honestly wouldn't be shocked if some of these matches were chalk, outside of the tournament finals, which we'll get to here in a moment. I like that some of these seem like, maybe Chris Statlander needs a good win, so she'll get that good win. Maybe FTR winning is going to set up another tag title, feud coming up with Cope and Cage. Great, let's get that settled in and going. You get a great match, you get a fun match, leading up to it, but you also, get to build the next story that they're going to need to do with the next 3 months of TV before Revolution in March in LA. We're going to talk Continental Classic semifinals. This is how it shakes out. We had a 6-way tie in one of the leagues, and then the other league we had a little bit more parity, and we ended up with 2. First, Continental Classic semifinal. Jon Moxley versus Kyle Fletcher. Here are a couple of notes. Kyle Fletcher, breakout star, at least from SI, Sports Illustrated's viewpoint, in regards to having the best year for 2025. And, Kyle Fletcher being on such a ascension as a star, the proto-star, if you will. I think this is the perfect time to have a opportunity at some, not just some stakes, but the Continental Champion. And I know Kyle Fletcher could have some potential in the world title picture down the line, but I'm not going to necessarily think that that's going to happen yet this year or next year. I think Will Ospreay, Hangman, Swerve, MJF, Joe, maybe some other folks get involved there, have the most opportunity to be in the world title picture next year. Maybe you see someone new in the 2026 AEW world title picture. I don't know if Kyle Fletcher's there yet. I think he could be. He had the cage match. He's had a lot of crazy matches in AEW thus far, but I don't see him in the world title picture just yet. That being said, I think Kyle Fletcher wins this match against Jon Moxley, and I think that it's going to be the next step for Kyle Fletcher, the next necessary step, as he was TNT champion, and you can move forward with this, with the Continental title. However, I can also make a case that Jon Moxley could win this match. Not to say that he would win the tournament, but if Jon Moxley were to win this match, he could then state, hey, not only did I go further than anybody in the Death Riders in this tournament, Pac or Claudio included, but I made it to the final. I was that close. I proved myself. I may have lost the AEW World Title, but damn it, I'm still here. I'm still a top competitor in AEW. How dare you look negatively upon me, etc., etc. Because I initially wanted, flippantly, albeit, but I wanted Moxley to lose every match in his bracket there, in his league. That didn't happen. But I kind of wanted him pushed out of the Death Riders based on taking L's. He ends up having the most points from the Death Riders in the leagues, and he's in this semifinal on a prominent spot on pay-per-view. While the Death Riders, no slight towards them, but they are in the Mixed Nuts Mayhem match, and they're not in the Continental Classic semifinal. At least Claudio could have been. So I could see where Moxley could have a stake to claim if he were to win this match, but I firmly believe Kyle Fletcher is on the ascent. He will get the win. Jon Moxley loses another big match on pay-per-view. Look at it that way. And the Death Riders start saying, or continue saying, hey, you're failing us. You couldn't get it done. Yeah, you got so far, but, you shouldn't have failed. You should be in the world. You should be in the Continental title match. You should have made it to the finals. You're a failure. So I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen, but I like the storyline purposes of trying to continue the excommunication of Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, ascend Kyle Fletcher to a new level, because I don't see a world where Kyle Fletcher should lose this. I think he's got a lot to gain. So even if he loses the Continental title match, assuming he makes it, I don't think that's going to fault him. I think he has to at least get there, though. And if he gets there, he will face one of two men, Kazuchika Okada, Konosuke Takeshita. My lord, this match we thought could be for the final. We now know they are in the same spot. We are going to get the match no matter what. And I'll try to explain this the best that I can. If Okada loses this particular match, he will lose both his Continental Championship and Unified Championship, which will vacate the Unified Championship and will guarantee the new Continental Championship champion in the final. I think that it's been pretty simple to see that, they're going with, as they have been the last couple of years, Okada being the best tournament wrestler of all time, as a multiple-time winner of the G1 and the winner of the C2 last year. It's, absolutely possible that they just run with that and continue that for Okada. But I think that's also on the flip side how he loses this match. I think Konosuke Takeshita will win. I think Takeshita goes into this not being the pick of Don Callis, kind of the redheaded stepchild of the Don Callis family, the guy that's not as highly touted as Okada. Takeshita is not the best tournament wrestler, all those things, yet he beats the greatest tournament wrestler to advance in the tournament. And we would get Kyle Fletcher, Konosuke Takeshita in the Continental Classic final for the AEW Continental title. And if that's the case, man, Takeshita or Fletcher, if it's these two guys, you could make a case for either man in either match. All four, I think, do present an interesting case. That being said, with it being, in my opinion, Takeshita or Fletcher, Man, I think it's going to be Konosuke Takeshita. I can make a case where Kyle Fletcher wins based off of jealous Okada costing Takeshita, and that could ultimately be how it goes. But I think Takeshita getting the win over Okada is not necessarily enough, and I think that he would want to advance and win more than the Continental title, but defending it for a while, being this next star. He could have another match with Kyle Fletcher if that's the case. He could defend it against Moxley. He could have a rematch against Okada. I'm going to take Konosuke Takeshita as the Continental Classic winner. I also love that, currently Konosuke Takeshita, as he is the winner of the G1 Climax, he's the winner of the IWGP World Title, he's the current champion. I think it's very apropos that this new quote unquote best tournament wrestler could be Konosuke Takeshita, current world champion IWGP. He could be the Continental Champion. I think it lines up to where Okada is not necessarily replaced, but the new guy, the new sheriff in town, is Konosuke Takeshita. But man, give me Takeshita and Fletcher. Should be one hell of a match if that's the case. One other hell of a match. Let's get to it. AEW World Title on the line. MJF cashing in his Casino Gauntlet title contract cash-in that he won at All In Texas for his opportunity here. Inserting himself into a 3-person match and making it a 4-way. Samoa Joe defends his AEW World Title against Swerve Strickland, Hangman Adam Page, MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. I think Swerve and Hangman cancel each other out. Whether that means they do challenge for the tag titles down the line, if they want to take on FTR, or they want to get involved with the Young Bucks, or, go against the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and, add their own third, be in the trios division. I just don't see them getting the world title as of yet. I think Revolution is where that's going to happen maybe next. I think MJF could easily win this match or easily be the guy that gets pinned in this match to make him more pissed off and what have you. But I think MJF will win this match. And if he does win this match, I could see him holding this title all the way until Wembley Stadium, where Will Ospreay, who would have won something to get the number one contendership, would win the AEW World Title. I know that's futuristic booking all the way down the line into deep August of next year. But I really think that's what they're going to go for. I think they want Ospreay to win at Wembley Stadium, win the world title, and really crown the future of AEW. But to get there, I think you got to have some transition, and I think MJF maybe doesn't hold it all the way there, but he could be the placeholder as a heel. Maybe you get a babyface to take the title from him at Revolution, or you keep it from him or on him, through Dynasty even, and what have you. But you kind of got to get some stability, I think, so that Ospreay could be the guy to dethrone whoever that may be, if that's what you're looking to do. And I know as we close out 2025, it's tough to look ahead to 2026 all the way 8 months ahead of time, but that's what we do here on the Juice Box. And if we do an award show, if we do a prediction show next week, I know I can, potentially predict who could be champion. In regards to that, I think a prediction show could be fun. But, an award would go out to MJF for, longevity, comeback, some sort of angle there, if he were to do that. If he loses this match, though, loses the Casino Gauntlet, loses that automatic cash in, I don't know. I don't know what would be next for him. I don't know if he would take it out on Swerve personally or Hangman personally and try to do what he's got to do to, piss off anybody else, take it out on Darby. Who knows? Like, MJF without the title just doesn't seem as interesting to me because it seems like he's just meddling until he gets back in the world title picture. I think MJF as world champion, as the heel champion, as the Ric Flair is best for AEW. And that's why I'm picking MJF to regain his AEW World Title, the Triple B, if you will. Looking forward to this show. Always a great show. Like I said, these late December shows, AEW pay-per-views are always killer. And I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest with you. So I've got the conglomeration. I've got Kyle Fletcher. I've got Konosuke Takeshita. I've got Konosuke Takeshita to win the Continental Classic. I've got Darby Allin. I've got FTR retaining. I've got the Babes of Wrath retaining. And I have Chris Statlander retaining, with MJF winning the AEW World Heavyweight Championship once again to conclude AEW World's End. Will we get a surprise? I don't know. But as always, like I said, AEW on pay-per-view is a great time, and I cannot wait to sit and watch this all unfold and transpire. As always, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, at Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram, at JuicySteen on YouTube. Listen to the show on Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, as I said, Apple Podcasts, JuicySteen.podbean.com. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts or via Spotify, please leave a rating and review. I will really appreciate that if you were to do such. And looks like next week we really could potentially do a prediction show for 2026. I've never really tackled that before, but it's been suggested to me, and I think I could do it in a way that I want to do it. So I don't have to make crazy predictions, but maybe I'll do a couple of people I think will win a title in each company. Maybe someone who will return, or storylines. Easier things I can suggest. It won't be a super crazy episode. It won't be a super long episode. But I think having some predictions and then revisiting them halfway through the year maybe, or all the way at the end of the year, could be fun. And we could keep it going throughout the year and years right here on the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. So appreciate all the support. Shout out to Wrestling Nation. Shout out to everybody who's listened throughout 2025. And all the AEW shows. I went to 2 AEW pay-per-views last year. Went to Dynasty, and I went to All In Texas. Here's hoping I can get to an AEW pay-per-view in 2026. They announced Dynasty for Vancouver, British Columbia. So hopefully they got something on the slate for Philadelphia, maybe even Pittsburgh, or somewhere close enough to where I can attend. I always love checking out AEW when they're in town or whenever it's not that far of a drive. All in Texas was a, separate, random, crazy trip, but, more than willing to do that for AEW's biggest North America show. It was well worth the trip. So looking forward to World's End, and who knows what will happen at the AEW final pay-per-view of 2025. I'm Juice Springsteen. Enjoy World's End this weekend. And as for me, you can catch me next week and next year right here on the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.